Right, take two. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first workshop of the year, which is called Career Competitive from Your First Year. My name is Karen. I'm the HDR career educator here at QUT, and I get excited by these workshops. So I'm hoping that they are as useful for you as they are fun for me to facilitate. So there will be more of us joining. So bear with me as I admit people from the waiting room, just double checking that everyone can hear me and can see the shared screen. Perfect. Couple of thumbs up. Thank you for that. Okay. To begin the workshop, I would like to acknowledge our traditional owners, the Turrbal and Yagara people. These are the people that own the lands on which QUT now stands. I'd like to pay respects to their language, to their laws, to their elders and their customs. And I would like to recognise that these have always been places of learning, teaching, and research. So, welcome everybody. Can I ask everyone to write their student number in the chat? And if possible, if you could change your name from your student number to your name, so that if you're not able to turn on your camera, I at least know that there's a person behind the screen. That would be fabulous. All right. Once you've registered, that means that I know who you are and I'll be able to send you the recording and the slides afterwards. So let's begin by introducing GRED. That's the Graduate Research, Education and Development team. We provide optional learning and development opportunities for HDR students to help you complete your thesis and equip you for life after your degree. That's really where I come in. So within the GRED team, I'm your career planning educator, your career development coach, and your cheer squad. So just to confirm, we are not the GRC, the Graduate Resource Centre. They're the ones that help you with all of your admin along the way. They are fabulous humans, but they're not part of our team, so I can't help you. GRED can't help you with any of the enrolment things, but we can help you with your academic and your career support. Okay. Oh my. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Karen Thavu. For 15 years, I've been a qualified careers educator, professional member of SEEKA, and I work in GRED to build programs online and workshops, including face-to-face, to help you redefine who you are as a researcher and to help you with your career going forward. So something that you might not know about me from my resume or from my LinkedIn profile, I've been to 45 different countries, 5 different universities, 8 campuses, and across that I've had multiple roles in student advising, careers and employment, and work integrated learning or internships. So that pretty well makes me well placed to help you out with your career planning. So let's talk about what we're going to cover in this session. So my plan is for us to start building a peer career community. Everyone in this workshop is in a similar situation to you, and being able to learn together is going to help us grow. Then I really want to help you achieve a clearer understanding of the 3 core important career steps for first-year candidates. Just a show of hands, just put your hand up in the chat. Who is here in their very first semester? Or first of all, first semester attendees. So I can see one. Does that mean that everyone else is in their first year? 5th month, 2nd semester. Yes, good to know. Where does everyone else fall? Knowing where you're starting is going to help me, I guess, measure the kind of advice that's useful. Oh, so it looks like most of you are in first year, just started, almost finished the first year. Oh, fantastic. 1.5 years, Lewis, that's awesome. Right, so you are all relatively at the beginning. So importantly, what we're going to be doing is exploring the HDR career planning model at QUT, because for most students, one of the most common questions I get in Q&As is, what do I do? And even more importantly, when do I do what? So we're going to be talking through that today. So you'll be able to put a plan together, which is half the battle. So that's what I'm here to do. I want to know what you're here for. What are you here to discover? What do you find most challenging? What is it that you already know? And what do you want to know more about? If there's any pressing issues, please write them in the chat or unmute yourself and speak into the microphone. That would be terrific. What I really want to know, if you're just here to get a general sense of what it is that you're supposed to do, I'll take that as assumed. But if you're here for a particular reason, tell me what it is and we'll see if we can address it. Are you here for a special reason? What do you find most challenging? What do you want to know? Jess, I did 2 years in industry before returning for my PhD, and I really want to stay in academia. But it is daunting. Yes, it is. You are right. It is, shall we say, a moving feast right now, and it has been for a while. That doesn't mean that you won't be successful there. But yeah, you're right. It's not an easy time to start a career in academia, but from that perspective, it's not an easy time to start a career, period. But with your PhD skills that you are building, you are extraordinarily well placed for successful careers. What we need to do is just help you articulate what those skills are and learn the differences. Okay, so that's something that we will be covering off. So let's kick off. So here's my top 3 tips. I've tried to keep it really brief for you. So the first one is to know the graduate employment facts. And thanks to Jess's comment, we're already starting to explore that. What is the job market at the moment? If we know what the job market is, we know how to pitch ourselves properly to succeed in it. Then to build your career skills. That's fairly self-evident, but particularly when you've come from different roles, you probably feel like you've already got those basics down. You know how to do a resume, you know how to apply for jobs. And can I just suggest that once you start as a researcher, the framing around your skills and your experiences, everything you've done before your research and everything you do during your research is absolutely relevant, but sometimes it needs to be repackaged. So that's what I'm here to help with. I offer lots and lots of workshops through the year, so hopefully we'll be able to get to know each other really well. And the third one, which is often the one for researchers, is the one that's the hardest almost, or the one that you give least preference to, is connections. Often it feels like you're head down deep in the research and the reading, and it's difficult to connect with your peers now in the way that it was potentially easier in undergrad. So that's what we're going to be concentrating on. So as we talk about knowing what the job market is, Let's start off with some of now I'm not going to call it good news or bad news. It's just news. So it is a fact that less than 25% of graduate researchers are securing tenured academic positions, and casual and contract positions are on the rise. Now, this comes from the Okola Review from 2016 and the COVID-19 impact on the university sector. It's stayed fairly constant with these figures for about 7 or 8 years now. But here's the important thing: why industry knowledge and the awareness of that careers landscape is important, regardless of your intended career path, whether you're looking to work in industry or in academia. Even if it's in academia, researchers are now required to have the skills to engage with industry and have that experience and those connections. Australia's been ranked at the bottom of university industry collaboration for a decade, which might be surprising. So that's led to an increasing focus from the Australian government and universities to improve in those areas. That means that there's now more incentives for universities to offer placements and for researchers to engage with industry. That also applies because grants are increasingly competitive. These days, there's often a requirement for industry partners and being able to show real-world impact of how your research translates. So the sooner you can build or leverage, if you've already got it, your existing industry connections and networks, the better. So there's our reality check. Academic roles are also needing a broader skill set. And so HDRs, so that's you need broader skills, capabilities, and industry connections to be competitive. This is not a problem. This is an opportunity, because those that have those industry connections, as well as your research skills, as well as the academic chops or the thesis that you will be starting to write, sees you really well placed for jobs, whether in industry or in academia. So let's have a quick look at the job landscape. This is from the Future of Jobs Report 2020 from the World Economic Forum. What it shows, the two big themes really, are that there's a decrease in managers and administration workers. Well, management maybe, but I don't see you wanting to work in administration anyway, right? There is an increase in data analysts and specialists. So if you had to describe yourself in 2 words other than HDR student, it might well be data analyst and specialist, right? So it seems to me that the future of your career as an HDR specialist is looking pretty bright. So I'm hoping that that will help you. And yes, I will be making the slides available and the recording after this session. So no need to take notes. We'll be doing lots of activities, but no need to take notes on the slides. So one thing to keep in mind is that industry may not know how much they need you. So your mission while you're here through your HDR research is to build your skills and experience and promote your value to industry, because even for a career in academia, promoting your value to industry makes you more attractive as a sessional or a full-time academic. So one other way to make this work is to conduct wise job searches. If you are looking for work, using words like PhD or an MPhil, it's like, I want a role that acknowledges my PhD. If you only search on that, you're probably missing most of the opportunities. So what we recommend is that you start exploring the skills and experience that are required for current jobs, in order to plan your training and development. Are you with me so far? Oh, it's so hard when I can't see your faces. It's not as fun. All right, would you like, so there's 20 of us, would you like to do a little breakout room activity? What we're going to do is, as you break into your groups, just introduce yourselves and what your basic topic is, but this is not the purpose of the breakout room. What I want you to do is just nominate somebody as a screen sharer and a scribe for your group. But I'm going to ask you, how many workshops have you been to where you were given 10 minutes for a task and you spent 9 minutes introducing yourselves and asking each other who wants to do what? This is not that workshop. I want you to spend 10 minutes on this activity, and I genuinely only want you to spend a couple of seconds finding the screen sharer. What I want you to do is, using Seek platform, I want you to conduct a Seek search. If you're all PhD students in your group, use the search term on PhD, and otherwise use MPhil if there's a lot of you in that group. I want you to find how many jobs you found available using those as a search term. Then second round, I want you to do the same thing using research and see what comes up. And then I want you to discuss between yourselves what are some other search terms that may be useful. And then your scribe is to share those when we come back. Are you ready? All right, let's put you into some breakout rooms. Okay, there should be 4 or 5 of you in each room, so not too small. And I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. If you are finished earlier and you want to come back into the main room, please just leave the group, agree to leave the group and come back in, and then I'll know to start.
recorded.
And we're drifting back. All right, let's close these rooms. It'll take a second, well, a minute for them to close. Did you meet anybody interesting while you were in your breakout rooms? Oh, Heshani, it's so lovely to see a face rather than a black screen. If you have the bandwidth, it would be just lovely if you, oh no, if you were able to keep your camera on. I love talking to actual faces. Oh, there's another face, but I don't know your name. Used to go to
Pivini.
your
Pivini.
Tivani?
Yeah.
Hello, good to meet you.
You too.
All right. Hopefully the others will be drifting back. Rani, I completely understand if you're not, if you're trying to juggle half a dozen different things, your video camera is not the thing you're going to be prioritizing. And I completely understand that. But as long as I've got a few, I can at least read the room a little bit going, have I lost anybody yet? Oh, thank you so much for playing with me. I really appreciate all of these faces that I get to talk to. You're stuck with my face. It's much nicer that I get to see yours as well. All right, so we're all back. So I want to know, what did you find? So let's have a quick chat about where we got to in that activity. And I've got so many details. Where's my next screen? There we go. Let's discuss. So from breakout room 1, what did you find? Have we got a spokesperson? Free to unmute or write in the chat if you need. Any key learnings from breakout room number 1?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, yes, I'm currently typing in the chat.
All good. Dora. Maybe I can go to breakout room number 2 while we're waiting for Jess to add details in the chat. Is there anyone in breakout room number 2 who is able to use their mic? Now we've got on.
Hi,
Yes,
sorry,
hi,
just
Jess.
quickly, can you not see what I'm typing in the chat currently?
No, are you sending it to everybody?
Yes, can other people see what I typed through?
Hmm.
You might just need to scroll down or
Yeah, I can
I'm
see it.
scrolling down, I'm scrolling up.
can see it too.
Huh.
I've been sharing it with everyone, apologies.
Yeah.
That is mysterious.
Is your chat box set to everyone or
It
just
is
to
set to
direct?
everyone.
Joys
It
of
is set to
technology.
Yeah, my last message is from Hiba, who says, yes, we can see it, but I can't. Well, that's okay. Somebody who can read it. Someone who can read it, read it out.
If someone can
Okay.
read that, appreciate it.
Oh.
Okay, Wonder is sharing with MPhil, we got 3 jobs. One was in Queensland. Yeah, 1 job. Wow. One, then 8 were for PhD. None were in Queensland. Research is several thousand. Interesting. So the hard part is when we're gaining these new quals, we want people to acknowledge those. We want to find roles that are specific for our new set of skills, right? But because industry doesn't know they need you, it's really quite rare for them to come up in job searches. If there are several thousand research jobs, that does give you somewhere to start. But being even more granular can be helpful. What else could you search on? So potentially, we could target, now this then becomes a little bit more bespoke to your individual circumstances, but you could add in the search terms your discipline, your school. You could add in some of the technology that you are mastering. Potentially, it could be things like data analysis. It could be investigation, interpretation, those kinds of keywords. But potentially, maybe it's something bigger. What are we missing by relying on Seek? Rani says, I find I get much better results on LinkedIn. I'm so glad. Rani is not a plant, but that is absolutely my favorite comment so far. I'm a LinkedIn advocate, shall we say. I'm pretty passionate about getting researchers, early career researchers, onto the LinkedIn platform. It's not the only platform, but it is so useful for particularly industry-related roles. For academic roles, there's a lot of senior academics that really aren't on LinkedIn at all. So you need to balance that. But LinkedIn is a terrific platform, but it's not the only one. Is anyone familiar with uni jobs? So it's the Times Higher Education uni jobs. So if you just Googled uni jobs and it comes up with the Times Higher Education one, that's the one to use. What's awesome about that website is it helps you search academic roles, research roles, and professional roles at universities all around the world. So you can be really specific and say, I only want to find roles in Brisbane, or you could say worldwide, or you could do it by region. So because of that, it gets you an idea of what the job market is like inside universities. The professional roles within universities, that's called the third space. And it's called the third space because we often don't think about it. We think that industry is over here and academia is over here, and we can often miss professional roles. To give you an example, most of the roles that are offered in GRED, that are staffed in GRED, are offered as either academic or professional roles. My role is one of those. The language and learning, the writing experts, Tasha and Kerry, if you haven't met them yet, you will, they're fabulous. One of those is employed as a professional. The other one is employed as an academic. So because they're advertised in the professional job section, you don't always remember to have a look. So it's kind of useful to know where the jobs are. I do another workshop on job search specifically a bit later down the track for you. So we'll probably leave it there. But what I wanted to give you an idea of is get a flavour of what's happening. And if you're searching even on something as as generic as research, how many opportunities there are. So another thing that's important is knowing what career skills are in demand. You know, it's hard to develop your skills if you don't know what skills that employers looking to employ HDR researchers are looking for. So from the World Economic Forum, again, from the jobs report of 2020, here are the top 10 skills of 2025. Analytical thinking and innovation. Active learning and learning strategies. Actually, I'm just going to go down the list and try and find one that doesn't relate specifically to HDRs. Potentially, leadership and social influence may not be, but it may well be. And maybe technology use, monitoring and control may or may not be. But if you look at those top 10 skills, all of those are well within your pocket. What's interesting though is, are they the skills that we are promoting when we're thinking about what skills do I have going forward? So how do you build skills in those? Well, first of all, to clarify your existing strengths and skills, then explore your passion and your interests, and be open to exploring a range of experiences in regards to your research. Now that sounds great, but what does that really mean? Hopefully some of you have seen this map before. It used to be bigger. There used to be 20 skills. We've reduced that because no one could remember them. So we've made them 12 skills. My career development will always be within the lead your development, but the others are all equally important, of course. Oops, I got too far. So we've identified these top 12 skills, and if you log on to the skills assessment tool, the link is listed there. You'll be able to explore those and document them going forward. Has anyone accessed this tool before? Rani has? A few of you have. Okay. So how long has it been since you took a skills audit quiz? This one is quite specific for HDRs, but any skills quiz that's looking for a careers focus will be relevant for you. What's useful for this one is it's available to you and only you. No one else can access this. I can't even access it. It's only people who are enrolled who can develop it, and it's entirely personal to you. It's a 10-minute quiz that helps you audit the skills that you already have, but also highlighting what may be some of your key gaps and what you can do within QUT to build on the skills that you haven't mastered yet. So if you haven't done that quiz before, I recommend it. To give you an idea, this is what you can do. So if you'd said that, oh, academic writing, I'm still trying to get the hang of it. So you can rate your skills. It's either new to you, you've got some experience or significant experience, or you can say it's not relevant. Don't think this one will be irrelevant for you. If you've said you've got some experience, what I recommend you doing is add notes, because this will be your career skills repository that you can use throughout the whole of your program. And that repository will help you clarify, oh, I do have skills in this. I've forgotten my dot points. You know, what else have I done? Write your dot points in here that you might be able to use on your resume later on, so that you've got a record of everything that you've done. If you've done it before, but it's a little while since you've done it, over 6 months or up to a year, my recommendation is to do it again, because hopefully you will see progression as you go. I would love to recommend that you do this skills evaluation at least 3 times during your candidature. One, so that you can feel good about yourself and encourage yourself with the progress that you've made, but also that you are building an iterative repository of stuff that you've done and examples of where you've demonstrated those skills. Because when you get to the end and you're preparing for interviews and job applications, it is so much easier to have done it as you go rather than starting from scratch with what you've done. So this is an example of how you can update things. So if you do that, at least on an annual basis, it will really help you build the evidence that job applications are going to require you to write. So my suggestion is start early, because then it's a 2-minute job or a 10-minute job rather than this onerous thing right at the end. Okay, so from there, what are your next steps? So if the skills tool has captured what you can already do, it has then suggested new things for you to do. What do we do then? So it's reviewed the skills that you need developing. Then you just go to the HiQ Research student page and you click on your Develop Research and Career Skills. And then it'll take you to all the different workshops to register. So all of our things are listed there. It will also, for the first time this year, it will also indicate whether it's useful for you to do it early, which is in your first year before candidature, before confirmation, sorry. Whether it's good to do it in the middle or whether it's good to do in your final year. If you haven't done some of them and you're not in the right year, don't worry, anybody can attend. What we're just trying to do is make it simple for you and not overload you, making you feel like you've got to do everything all at once. All right, so we've talked about building skills. How do you connect with your peers? Well, it's people in your lab, in your office. That one's an easy one. Connecting with your supervisors is something that hopefully gets easier and easier as you go through your program. You can join and attend HDR Student Society events. Not every school has a student society, but it is something that I would strongly recommend that you ask at your faculty level to say, where is the HDR Student Society, so that they're specifically designed for people like yourselves who want to contribute at a higher level, and then plan for opportunities to continue to contribute. So this is sharing your projects, sharing 3MT, that's your 3-minute thesis competition, a bit later down the track, participating in design sprints or internships. And it isn't too early for you to consider internships. If you plan, mostly because it takes about 6 months to plan them. So if you plan for them in your first year, ideally, what you would then be doing is within your second year, you would be starting to participate in them. But if you don't plan soon, it's like booking an overseas trip. It's possible that you can do it. You can book, you can research, you can then organise your flights and do everything the week before. Chances are your options will be more limited, your costs will be more expensive. But for those who like to plan ahead and organise their international trips a little earlier, now that we're allowed to travel internationally again, it's the same thing for internships. The earlier you plan, the better prepared you are. Share in the chat, what are some other opportunities that you know about or that you already engage with to connect with your peers? What else do you do to build connections with other academics, with other students, maybe some undergrads from a leadership perspective? Is there anything else that you do? I'm not getting any further chat. So if I'm missing something, can you please let me know? Otherwise, I'll move on.
hi.
Tutor. Yes, Rani.
Hi, hi Karen.
Hello.
Yeah, apparently, sorry, I'm just speaking quietly in my office. Apparently you can't see what several of us are typing, for
No.
some reason. I've said the HDR coffee catch-ups on campus,
Yes.
campus
Awesome.
seminars and center workshops. Dana has said, school networking events and panel events. And yes,
Great
Rani
idea.
said tutoring. is
Going
also
back
good.
as school alumni. This is awesome. It is very odd. I've got some, so for example, I've got Rani's message. Also tutoring can be great, but that's the only one I've got. How odd. But all of those are really terrific ideas. It is really important where you've got those coffee chats to just hang out and normalize all of your experiences, to build that sense of a cohort. I've got a group and a community who's on my side. So because I said that I was an advocate, you know what's coming next. So here's an example to focus on LinkedIn. What is it used for and how do you use LinkedIn? For those of you who do use it, I'd love to hear how it's used. And for those of you who don't, is that because you choose not to, you've got no intention of doing that, or because you use a different platform? Let me know.
So I use LinkedIn because I see like a lot of the other HDR students sharing their research or events and stuff. And so then I find it's a good place then to share stuff that you might think is relevant in your network that other people are sharing. And I know that the people that I'm connected to will also share my events and stuff around, or things that I've shared.
I love that. Often as HDRs, we get a bit territorial about stuff we're working on, don't we? We get a little introspective. It's like, it's my research and I don't want anyone else in. Sharing our research within a safe community, and obviously not the full details, but just I'm working on a project and here's what we found at a high level first up. I think it's really important to develop those relationships. And even if you're not sharing things publicly, but to reach out to people you are connected with and saying, hey, so-and-so, you might be interested in this as well. Are all of you connected to me on LinkedIn or to the QUT, now what do we call it? Graduate Research Network. So there is a page that you can follow on LinkedIn, and it is called the QUT Graduate Research Network. We run that. I run a lot of the posts. What it's designed to do is to build that sense of community. We'll send reminders for events that are coming up. I will regularly post, here are some job opportunities that are currently available, often part-time and casual roles that might be of interest for you. And the other thing that I really love to do on that page is to celebrate our HDR students and alumni as they find success. That might be nominated for awards, it might be publishing their research or presenting on a conference. So anytime you share on LinkedIn, I would love to engage with that content also to help promote your networks. Rani teaches a class. where you teach undergrads how to use LinkedIn. Well, you do not need to come to our LinkedIn workshop. There's a special LinkedIn workshop that I will run later in the year. If you are not that familiar with how to use it to your advantage as a researcher, or connect with Rani and she'll help you. So 71% of recruiters are likely to view a candidate's LinkedIn digital footprint. That is huge. That's more than just their profile. It's who they're connected with, who they follow, how often they engage, and what they post. So it's impossible to build up a history of engagement in just a couple of weeks. So starting early and writing little bits at a time is the perfect advice. And Rani, I didn't mean to sell you down the river there. We are all learning LinkedIn. It's a technological platform that moves fairly rapidly. I've been on it a fair while. I've got 3,500 connections. So this is why I do have a significant reach on LinkedIn. You'll also see from my profile that several of my jobs I found through working on LinkedIn. So I am N=1 evidence that the hidden job market is a thing and that jobs can find you through LinkedIn. And there's a badge on that. If you're looking for my profile and you're not sure if you found me, that's what it looks like. I would love to connect. Okay, we're an hour in. Let's take a stretch break. Stand up, stretch tall. Now stretch down to your toes. So stand up, move around. Shake things out. For the rest of this workshop, it's going to be less content and more action using the handouts that I emailed to you this morning. Okay. So where we talked about before, sometimes the hardest thing, particularly in first year, is to know what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. So if you're starting to think, yes, I definitely want to be career competent from my first year, but you're asking yourself, how do I know what to do or where to start? I can help. So in your activity sheet, it looked like this, I hope. So it's a HDR career planning worksheet that I emailed to you this morning. Check out exercise 1. Would you like to go back into your breakout rooms, or would you prefer to stay as one larger group to discuss this way? Larger group? Are you speaking for the group there, Rani? Because it seems like I can see your chat, but not many others. You prefer to stay in your bigger groups. All right, that's fine. So let's look at the first activity. Spend a few minutes mapping where do you think they would go. So the activity with early, middle, or late. And what we mean by early is in your first year before confirmation. What we mean by late is your last year of candidacy. And middle is literally everything in the middle. When do you think is the best time to do each thing? There are some recommendations, but there isn't really a hard or fast answer to most of these. give you a couple of minutes to actually read through the list. Has everybody got the list? You've got the document?
Hi, Karen. Once again, I think this is a bit of a problem where people are discussing things in the chat and you're unable to see it, unfortunately.
It is a problem. I've got, it is odd because I can see some people's.
Yeah, and we're all
Not
applying to
everybody's.
everyone.
Are you able to
so-
speak for them and read them
yeah,
out?
I'll keep their voice down.
Thank you.
Dana has suggested that all of them are good to start early. I think I think most of them are good to start early and continue through middle, except for actually looking for jobs and securing the relevant work. Particularly registering for an internship is good early. Is there anybody else who wants to message and I'll read it out?
If you disagree with the time frame that someone else has listed, I'm really keen to know what your thoughts are. As I said, there isn't one correct answer. So don't be shy if you were thinking something different.
I think, like, as Jess read my message out, I think all of them are good to start early. I think you possibly aren't going to work really hard at them all early. Even the relevant work stuff, getting tutoring hours in your first year, maybe picking up some RA work, whether it's 5 hours a week for 3 months or whatever. It's always good to keep your eye on the job market. I think applying for your ORCID is something that takes you not very long, so it's worth just having it in the background. I think with your internship, you might not start it, but like you were saying, it's good to start researching it at least. Yeah.
I love those comments. Thank you for sharing, Dana. I appreciate that. I agree. Often, if we can get the ball rolling or establish some processes and procedures, once you've built something, adding to it progressively becomes much easier. What I find, I see a lot of HDRs in their last year, and I go through this list and they go, oh, no. Oh, no, I haven't done any of those. So when you come to your final year and you haven't really done many of these, it does become a massive load. All of you are turning up even before orientation for this year. So I know you are not in those groups. But if you build a basic LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to shout out to anyone who already has, if you connect with me, I will always accept your connection. If as part of your connection, you would like me to spend a couple of minutes reviewing your profile and maybe sending you a few tips, I'm really happy to do that. So if you don't think your LinkedIn profile is ready to go and make public, my recommendation is do it anyway, because no one will find you until you start engaging. So if you're just building it, build it, make it public, and then ask useful people, hopefully I'm useful, to give you some feedback on how you can continue to make it better. It's better to have a platform because it's hard to get, 3 years of engagement into the last 3 weeks of your candidature. So build people to follow, organizations to follow, and the rest will come. Registering for an internship, I used that term because the what QUT is encouraging people to do is to register for an internship within their first 18 months of candidature. And what that does is it allows us to set that up for you and equip you with the right tools and expertise to be able to succeed in that internship. To register, it's basically an EOI, an expression of interest between you and the organisation. So if you want to self-source an internship, have a think about who you want to self-source with. And then if you put that expression of interest together and you can get that organisation to sign off on it early, then they've committed to you, you've committed to them, and literally you can work out the timing at a later date. But that expression of interest means that you are then on our books for the internship partnerships team to be looking out for you. If you want to know more about that, our internships team is running a workshop tomorrow with all the details of how you can get started, where you can look, what internship plans are already in place from a QT perspective, and then how to self-source your own. That's tomorrow, and it's a really good workshop to attend. In terms of getting a mentor, what do you think on that one? Oh, this chat is driving me crazy. What a shame. For mine, this is one that I would suggest leaving until your middle of candidature. Basically because at the beginning, there's a lot to set up. There's a lot to establish, and there's a lot of rethinking about who you are and what your place in the world is going to be. You want to be a little bit further forward with that before you're engaging somebody on a semi-regular mentorship basis. Mentors can be your supervisor, of course, but they don't have to be. My suggestion is in your first year, invest your time into your supervisor so that that relationship can be really strong, so that you can use them as points of referral and that they can help guide your career plan as you go through. From your second year onwards, add to that mentorship from your supervisor, add someone from outside academia or in a different discipline to give you a different perspective than you're getting from your supervisors. And you're right, attending conferences tends to be in the middle or towards the end. Researching the job market, for me, it's a great thing to do at the beginning to kind of set the scene for you, and then you can leave it. So you do a little bit at the beginning in your early candidature, and then the bulk of it you're leaving till a late candidature. The same with looking for work. If you get an idea early what kinds of roles are out there, then that can influence where you go forward, which is really helpful. But joining HDR societies, doing that skills analysis in the first instance is really helpful. Can I suggest that writing your resume is something that hopefully you've already got a draft or a template of? That is something that I suggest you do incrementally as you go through, so that at the end, it's not this massive, oh goodness, what have I done and where is my evidence? Essentially, that writing your resume iterative process can happen inside that skills assessment.
With the resume thing, I was advised, which I hadn't thought of before, which I don't know why I hadn't, is to have like a huge resume you have that has everything you've ever done, everything you've ever attended, all sort of in one document. And then when you actually go to apply for stuff, you can cut and paste from that document. So then, you know, that huge document you never send to anyone, but it's so that you can go as you go rather than adding things and cutting things.
Absolutely. This is your master document. In other workshops, I'll go into this in greater detail, but you'll probably need to construct two completely different documents. One is a professional resume for industry-based work. The other is an academic CV, and I use those terms separately. So I know CV and resume can be used interchangeably. I don't. I'm really specific about them so that you get the hang of the fact that they're two different documents for a completely different audience. Academic CV for academic roles, professional resume for industry roles. But either way, I absolutely endorse that. It is a technique that I will teach you. It's to build a master document, which is the kitchen sink. And what I mean by that is, for example, I have essentially, well, elements for 3 types of professional resumes. I have a training resume, teaching and training and coaching. I have a project management resume, and I have, what's the other one? Business development really is my 3rd one. So what that means is, under my key skills, I've listed all of my key skills and 3 dot points illustrating my expertise and examples of my successes within those. But what I then do, so my key skills list goes for about 8 pages off the top of my head. I would never, ever, ever send that to an employer. But what happens is, when I read the job ad, I highlight the top 3 skills that they're asking me to have, and they are the 3 leading skills that I document on my resume. And instead of having to rewrite them every time, your suggestion is accurate in that all I have to do is go, this one's a leadership role, right? So I'll focus my leadership key skills and I'll add leadership as one of the key skills. I don't write leadership and teamwork. So if it's not a leadership role, I might include my teamwork examples. So that's an idea of, as you go through, you're writing in blocks, and then at the end, when you're actually sending documents off, you are copying and pasting the relevant blocks that are most of importance to that particular job. It's a great way of making sure that it's really tailored.
Hi, Karen. Sorry, I have a quick question.
Yes.
With an academic CV, would you suggest having like a list of your publications and seminars you've presented at, etc.,
Yes.
towards the front or after the rest of your qualifications?
Well, I would almost use, and again, I go into this in more depth in other lectures, but essentially you start with the things that are of the most value. So with either document, it's likely that your key skills will be first. Then it will likely be education. With your professional resume, it will then be your work history. With your academic resume, with your academic CV, it will probably be the other way around. It will be your academic engagements. So that will be papers, presentations, and essentially your bibliography, potentially before your teaching experience. But everybody is different. If you would like me to review your documents multiple times a year, there is the job writing session. I think I've called it job writing session. It's not very sexy title, but what it is, it's a face-to-face. They're usually in E-Block on the KG campus. Come, bring your documents. And if you would like to do this early, just to get your template set, you are more than welcome to come. It's a drop-in service, and it will be getting feedback from peers as well as me. So I do that 6 or 8 times a year. So hopefully there'll be a session that works for you.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so we've already discussed that. So moving on. Now let's talk about the career planning model. So this is the one that I used last year. And what I was trying to do is, I guess, corral all of these exciting things that you can do into your early, mid, and late candidature. So at the beginning, it was things like building skills, drafting your plans at the beginning, and so on as we go down. So at the end, we're building roles. What I found, though, is that this model wasn't detailed enough. And people were still asking, yes, but I don't know how I do that, or what support do you offer as you go? So what I've done for this year is I've built this one out, and I've built you a progress map. So in the blue, we've got within the first year of candidature. Now, the titles that I've built are the names of 8 different online modules that we're still building. We were hoping they'd be ready for well, about now, but they're still in production. But very soon on HiQ, you'll be able to click on these links and it'll take you to an online learning module, which gives you more information. But I've got activities throughout each of these where there's at least one Q&A for each of these modules. There is at least one workshop, and usually there's a tool, an activity that you'd be using. So learn what your work preferences are. How do you thrive? What kind of management, what kind of learning experiences make you thrive in a work context? Then secondly, exploring your options just to see what is out there. Then building your profile, followed by growing a strategic network, investing in those experiences, and defining your competitive edge. This is where we start to think of ourselves as a business of one. So what is my difference between me and any other HDR? Even one who is in my same discipline? What do I offer that would make me a competitively valuable candidate for a job? Then in your late candidature, what I've tried to do is I've tried to bulk things into your early session to get you sorted so that they can just tick over and you can incrementally adjust them. And then towards the end of your candidature, that's when it gets pretty serious with resumes, CVs, interviews, and job applications. So this map will be available as part of this workshop, but you will start to see it everywhere. And I hope it's useful. If you are later into this process and you're at the end of your first year, don't panic that you've missed anything. You can do these in any order, but if you start from the beginning at any stage, it's still a logical flow for you. Okay, so I'd like you to have a look at activity 2 on your worksheet. First of all, I want you to start thinking of 2 people, just 2, that you could have an informational interview with. So this could be somebody in your HDR society. It could be someone who started their HDR study a little bit earlier than you or at the same time, or someone who's already doing a role that you would like to do. If you've got 2 people in mind, you can start. If not, then my suggestion is, as the first port of call, let's use your supervisor as a really good starting point. One thing that I will let you know, when I deliver workshops to supervisors on how to support your students in their career plan, I recommend that students are doing an informational interview with their supervisor so that they can give you some tips, firstly about their career and their advice, but also gives you a place to practice in a safe space with somebody that you already know well before you then go further. So if you've chosen someone to ask, let's say it's your supervisor, what could you ask them? Again, if you prefer to stay in a large group, let's craft them together. Maybe 2 or 3 really strong questions. The idea behind an informational interview is basically to focus on them rather than you, to say, how did you get here? What were your choices? What were your successes or failures? So that you can build a record of, this is data gathering, right? This is evidence-based practice. If I've talked to enough people, I've got an idea that this technique is possibly really useful because everybody's recommending that I do that. You get the idea?
Yep.
Do you want to-
I've put one in the chat, but again, I'm not sure you can see it. So should I read it out loud?
The last message in the chat was from Wanjiru, which is, that's really great, Karen. So yes, please. If you could read them out, I'd appreciate it.
If that's okay, it's just me so far. I've got here, how difficult is it to maintain your academic position or to get promotions in academia?
I like that. Yes. What does it really mean? Is there another question that you might ask first to frame that one a little bit?
So I had a question that I possibly would ask. I don't know whether it'll help frame Jess's question.
Okay.
It was the big question of, if you had one piece of advice you would give yourself at the beginning of your career journey, what would that be?
I like both of those questions. What I might suggest is to start with, tell me about your career journey. If you don't already know it, if you read their LinkedIn profile, or if you know them and you've seen their resume perhaps, or you've known them for some time, that's a question that you don't need to ask. But then once you've got their background, so in other words, how did you get here? In a more eloquently phrased question, then to ask Jess's question of how do you stay here and how do you progress is a fabulous question. And you could use that question, whether it was an industry-based person or an academic, really valuable. How do things work around here? How do you get promoted? How rare is it? How hard is it? Great questions. And the piece of advice that you didn't know when you started, this is the perfect way to frame an informational interview, because the purpose is for you to learn from other people's experiments, will we say. They might be successes, they might be failures, but it's kind of nice to normalize both of those. Are there any other questions? Hopefully you're writing some of these down in your document. Are there any other questions that you can think of that would be useful? If there's more comments in the chat, I'm so sorry. If someone could read them out, please. Any other questions? As you're thinking and composing, I'll let you know informational interviewing is such an important part of our job research for both academic and professional roles. It's so important. I'm running a brand new workshop this year that's focused exclusively on how to do this well. So if this is of interest to you, but you don't really know where you're supposed to be going with it, have a look out for that next workshop. But it is such a critical thing. One of the reasons it's so critical is that most people don't do them. So there's this huge pool of information, this rich resource. It's like not ever going to the library as you're doing your HDR research. It is that fundamental to careers, but most people don't. So the advantage you get from learning from other people's experience, I just can't overstate that. It's just really, really powerful. So are there any other questions that you've potentially crafted?
I think because I guess it's about relationship building too when you're doing these. So I guess, is it okay to ask things like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years or whatever?
Yes, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Because it is all about them. And remember, you're not recording these for anything other than your own personal learning. So you're right that it's all about relationships. If they're clear that you're just here, essentially sitting at the feet of somebody who's gone probably a little bit before you, it's not an accountable conversation. So here's a couple of others that you might want to think about. What did you originally want to do in your career? What's interesting is when you talk to different people, particularly if they've got an MPhil or a PhD, what was your original intention when you started that? And is that where you are now? And if it isn't, where did you start to change your mind? When did you realize that your career might actually end up somewhere else? And how did you make those decisions? Those kinds of questions about tell me how you made decisions that ended you up right here would be really interesting. So what did you originally, it's like asking little kindy kids, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of us said we wanted to be a policeman or a fireman or a nurse? Because they were the only books that we'd seen. They were the only people that we'd seen. So the bigger your exposure to different industries, the more likely it is that you could see yourself in that kind of a field. So what did you want to do when you started your research? Has that changed? And if it has, what made you change? Was there some experience that you did that got you thinking differently? Was there a decision that you made that kind of went, oh, this is my fork in the road. Now I'm going this way. And what were the decisions? So what were the choices that you didn't take? That can be a really, really fun question to unpack. What were your available choices? What didn't you choose and why not? What helped you make that decision? When did you know this is what you wanted to do with your PhD? I find is a really good question because often that's something that we struggle with as we're going through our research. I don't quite know. I know what my thesis topic is, but I don't quite know where I'm going to end up. Finding out from others, when did they start to know and feel comfortable with, I've got a clearer idea of where I want to head with my research. It's a useful one. Something along the lines of, I think it was Dana's question, what did you not know? Or what's some advice that you wish you had along those kinds of lines? When you were starting out in your career, what was the best piece of advice that you received? Or what didn't you know that you'd wished you'd known? And then at the end, if I'd like to investigate whatever it is a little bit further, do you have anyone else that you could refer me to speak with? Can I suggest that that is in your list of 5 questions all the time as your final question? This has been so helpful. I'm now really keen to dig a little bit deeper into this. Is there someone else in your network that you can refer me to. You see my cunning plan with that question? That means that every person you've thought of to do an informational interview with will double the number of people you actually can use. So if you are then saying, could you connect me with them? I'd really appreciate a warm referral. And then do that however it's preferred to be done. Could be face-to-face, could be a phone call or an email, or it could be on LinkedIn, whatever your platform, it doesn't matter. But could you provide a warm referral and someone else that I could continue this with? It's one of the most valuable questions that you could ask, because sometimes people don't have much time to devote to you. So this informational interview will just be a one-off thing. So at the end of it, you want to give them an action that is totally achievable from their perspective, but really valuable for your perspective. What you can then do is keep in touch with your first interviewee and say, thank you so much for that referral to Dr. Bob. He's just amazing. I met with him last week and he gave me this information. I really appreciate your connection, which is another way of keeping connected with your referrals. Each referral you're given, you ask for the next referral, and this is how you can grow a network without having to find more people that you know. So keep this informational interview question list, build on it, make them specific to the person that you're speaking with, but this is a really good template to keep in mind. Okay. So how are we going for time? We're all right. In your worksheet on activity 3, fill in the activities that you intend to do. So I'm just saying, let's keep it to 1 per thing. So maybe 1 or 2 entries under each category that you would like to complete or engage with or begin as you go through. What I would suggest is this activity sheet is one that I also share with your supervisors. So they've seen this activity, they've seen this model. So if you complete maybe 2 or 3 sections in this before you bring it up with your supervisor, they should have already seen it, they're expecting it, and it really helps give you a shared tool where they can start having career conversations with you without feeling like they have to do my job. So sharing this with your supervisor is really helpful. Is this difficult to fill in now? Or is it okay? What I love about the 3 questions at the beginning, this is my research topic, this is my previous career experience, and then my career intentions. What I'm trying to do with this model, particularly in conversations with your supervisor, is the 2 of you or the team of you are going to be head down, focused on the first bit for so much of your candidature. That one goes without saying. But building in answers to the next 2 questions helps you remember the bigger picture. The outcome of your PhD qualification is not your thesis. It's not. That is one of your outputs. It's a big one. It's an important one, but it is not the outcome of your study. the outcome of your study is that you are a well-rounded, well-informed, expert early career researcher. So you are the outcome of your qualification. You, not your thesis. What this is trying to do is help you remember that broader picture with your supervisor as you go through, not to take you off plan with progressing your thesis, but just so that you can both engage in these broader conversations. Is anyone willing to share anything that they've been able to add of activities they want to start doing or invest in this year?
I guess my big thing going forward, because I am like really early in my PhD. However, I've been working as a research assistant for an extended period of time and as a tutor. So I've got a fair bit of that career experience already, but it'll be managing, keeping that work going while I'm doing my PhD. And I think that that's where, so I guess my building skills is around that time management, around keeping track of those skill assessments. And I think using that STAR method, like you gave the example for, to keep building that resume and having those examples there when I have 5 minutes to do it, rather than when I finish my PhD and someone's going to have to pay a fair bit of money to hire me, that I can have a, cut and paste into a resume demonstrating what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
I love this so much. Again, Dana is not a plant either, but I'm so glad that you're able to contribute today, because yes, I could not have scripted that answer better. The idea behind all of the resources that we're building and all of the workshops that we're building is so that it's a slow, iterative process. So we're never asking you to spend days and days and days on one thing. At the beginning, it's just setting up practices and then letting them find themselves. For example, setting up job search opportunities on relevant web pages so that the job searches come to you rather than you having to go and find them. And then on a weekly basis, you can review going, oh, these are the kinds of roles that are available. Now I'm getting a pattern of what time of year they recruit for those, what kind of job titles they're called. So on a weekly basis, to spend 5 minutes going through, these are my weekly job searches that have come up, can really help you so that when you are ready to apply for jobs, you already know the search terms to be looking for. Really good practice. If you are needing a few more hints, and again, this is in the slide deck, so you will see it. It's your final cheat sheet. So tips and guidelines for you to create a meaningful, tailored career plan based on your strengths and your personal career goals. So if you revisit this regularly through your study, you see where you've grown, where you've changed your focus, and who you could use to testify to the new skills and the different knowledges and perspectives that you've built is really useful. So a couple of really specific things that you can be doing along that journey is good for records. Now, that full map that I showed you at the beginning, these are the first 3. So the first one was across your entire candidature. Now I want to unpack what this looks like in your first year or as first year researchers. So know your working preferences. This is basically unpacking all of the resources and the engagements that we do with you that will help you along the way. So I've color-coded it and given icons. So this icon is a set of gears, if you can't read that specifically. And in orange, these are the tools that you'll be using. Then this icon in the blue is for workshops or events. And this icon in the green are for Q&A sessions. All right. So in Know Your Working Preferences, the tool is your skill assessment tool. Then I run, this is the one. So from this, there's 2 workshops that I run. One is Essential Skills for Higher Degree Researchers. We go through the skill wheel of the GRED skill wheel, and we'll go through why this is important for you going forward. And for any of you who are here as international researchers, there are a whole different set of questions that you will have that are unique to your journey, because you don't have a homegrown Australian-based network. You don't have those casual roles that we've grown up with at school and at uni in our undergrad, where we've built some of our employability skills. Resumes look completely different internationally. I lived and worked in Singapore and Hong Kong for a while, and it took me a while to find my first job in Singapore, which is kind of embarrassing given that was my skill set. It's like, my goodness, if a career educator is struggling to find work, do you know why I found it difficult? Because I was giving them an Australian document. They didn't want an Australian document. They wanted one that was appropriate for their cultural environment. You need to know what it looks like. So for new Australians or people new to Australia, there's a lot of things that are bespoke for you. So I run the Australian job market for international researchers, and I run a Q&A on career planning for internationals, which is really valuable. Under Explore Your Career Options, the workshop choices are, I run a workshop on research careers in academia. Then I run a separate workshop on research careers outside or beyond academia. It's the workshop that you're attending right now, planning a research career from your first year. And the Q&A that's coming up for that is, what questions do you have about planning your research career? Then in building your professional profile, LinkedIn Learning is the tool that you'll be using. Then I run workshops on LinkedIn for researchers and your research brand and why it's necessary. And there's a Q&A on researcher profiles as well. There is so much support. What I would suggest is any careers workshop that is useful or relevant or of interest. Most of them are only offered once a year, but once they're run, we will have the recording up on HiQ for you within a day or 2 of the workshop, so you're always able to access that. If there is a topic that you're interested in, but you're double booked for, my recommendation is, no one else is listening, look in for it anyway, register for it anyway. That way I send you the tools and the pre-work resources, and you'll receive the workshop in its entirety with the recording shortly after. So whether you can attend or not, still register. That'll be our secret, that we do that. Okay, so there is a lot that I want to get involved with for you within your first year. Some of you may be relooking at these steps, even though you're finishing your first year. Others will be then moving into the mid-section. So there's a few things coming up. I've talked about tomorrow's session on the 15th of February on HDR internships. That's a really important one. I'd love to see almost all of you there. You won't see me, you'll be seeing Susan. And then on the 6th of March is my next session. And that's research careers inside academia. So whether you think your future is inside or outside of academia, if you want to know a little bit more about getting sessional work or building a career inside academia, I'd love for you to come along to that. And then on the 13th of March is that our Q&A on planning your research career. From a scheduling perspective, the other thing that I want to tell you about is we have a full week dedicated to careers for HDR candidates. It's called the HDR Careers Week, surprisingly enough. Last year, we ran it for the first time in April. It was really successful, but it was a bit too early in the year for people to get involved in it too much. We're giving you lots of notice this time. It's from the 19th until the 23rd of June. And there's multiple sessions a day that we'd love for you to be involved with. Some of them are face-to-face. Most of them are online. As I've suggested, register for them if you can. And if you can also attend, that would be fabulous. But that's something, that week is yours to focus on your career, the 19th to the 23rd of June. It's a big week. It's going to be fun. We'll have recruiters coming, alumni coming to share their stories, and lots of really interactive workshops. It's pretty cool. Am I still there? My screen share has disappeared. Am I still in your workshop?
Yeah, we can still see your screen.
Really?
Yep.
Something's going very odd with my laptop. So the only other thing that I wanted to do, if I can hopefully move it on, I have a screenshot of a survey to let me know what was useful for you about this workshop. But for some reason, it won't show me. So I will send that to you afterwards. While I've still got you, just as we're finishing up, we've done a bit of a surface dive, and we've gone from thing to thing, topic to topic, to try and give you just a broad overview of here are the things that you can plan for as you're going forward. And these are the things to focus on in your first year, without getting distracted with anything else. What questions are you still left with? Do you want more information on? I'll just open it up to anybody. Write your Q&A in the chat. If people are writing in the chat and I'm not responding, if somebody who's got access to it and a mic, that would be terrific. Otherwise, unmute yourself and ask your question. Is there anything about today's workshop you'd want further information on?
I got a question on writing your resume.
Oh, yes, Lewis.
Did you mention earlier that there was a drop-in session for writing and reviewing our resumes?
I certainly did. It's one that I think it's on the 22nd off the top of my head. Do you know what? My whole laptop has completely seized. Oh no, hopefully it can still go. I will find the date for you. Just bear with me. What I find with resumes, and that also applies to your academic CV, of course. What I find is that people know the theory of tailoring your writing to your audience, but we're not that great at actually delivering on it. So what I would suggest for any of these drop-ins, as I'm desperately trying to pick up the dates for you, is that you bring the job ad that you're applying for, or a job that is really similar for it, even if it's too early for you to apply for. This is the kind of role that I want to apply for. If I was applying for it, this is the document that I am currently drafting, because looking at your document in isolation from that, it might look like a really strong document, but if it's not tailored to the role that they're after, I'm not giving you the best advice. So bring it all. They are basically, they're kind of like shut up and write, except you don't shut up. So it's a really active session. So I call them, it's helpful to know that for a start, research job application reviews.
Okay, research.
So again, not a very sexy title, but hopefully it's enough for you to know what they're for. And the very first one I'm doing, as I would like to filter on those, research job application reviews. Okay, if you can still see my screen, I'm going to put them up.
Yeah.
You still can? That's awesome.
Yes, I can see them.
Hopefully that's not too small, but they're
Yes.
all face to face. The first is Monday, the 20th of February. So if
Yeah.
you're ready, you can come on Monday. 20th of February, 20th of March, they're all on a Monday.
Yes.
17th of April, 22nd of May, July, August, September, October, November, and December.
Mm.
We do them a lot. So if you want to do an iterative process, that would be awesome. And I'm just trying to find what room we're in. There we go. For the 20th of February, we're in KG E block, room 556
Yeah.
on Monday. I'd love to see you there.
Interesting. Thank you.
Do I have any further questions? Actually, if I can move the PowerPoint. Any other questions? And I'll put that screenshot up so that you can give me my feedback in real time. It's so much easier for you to just click on a QR code. Okay, take a photo, click on the QR code, tell me what worked for you, what didn't work for you, so that we can improve as we go. But any other questions, Paul? I've got you. Oh, Dana, you're a godsend. Thank you so much. Dana's put the link for those workshops in the chat. Is there anything else I can help you with as we're finishing up?
Although I've noticed there's a typo, so it'll have to, like in the student where it says student, they'll just have to put a T
Oh,
on that.
yes. Can add a T into student. Aha. So there's a question saying double checking when and where we can get the recording and slides. I will email them to you. So that will be a fail safe, but you will find them on HiQ. The recording will be processed by this afternoon. So the slides should already be posted, but I will email you the details of that. It should be later today.
Just in case you can't see my messages, thank you so much, Karen, for a really good session. I came to the session feeling really kind of daunted at the whole idea of building a career in academia, and you've really broken it into sort of manageable pieces. So thank you.
Oh, that is a beautiful piece of feedback. I'm really glad that it's helpful. You are absolutely right. It's massive. And because there is so much unknown and so much uncertainty, you've got enough to worry about in working out what your topic is and have I done enough research and what is my methodology. There's enough to be stressing over. I don't want you to stress about your career at all. I am here to help you walk through every step of the way. If you've got really complex situations, if you've got anything that you need to discuss on a one-to-one, I also do those, generally speaking, on a Wednesday afternoon. I've got 3 40-minute slots for students to book in if you would like to do that. Generally speaking, though, the workshops are the right place to start to give you the basics. And then if you've done the workshop and you still need more support, then I am here to help you. Find
Thank
me
you
on
so
LinkedIn,
much.
connect with me on LinkedIn, send me your questions. I'm here to help. That is my job. That's my whole job. It's the part of the job that I love the most. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed and you want some help with just bringing something down into a manageable level, just send me a quick message. I appreciate everybody's time today. I'm happy to hang out for the next few minutes if you've got some specific questions, but otherwise, thank you so much for attending today. And I will try and figure out this Zoom chat conversation debacle so that doesn't happen for next time. For those of you that I will be seeing on Monday at the resume workshop, I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face. But for those of you who are attending tomorrow, I know that you're going to get some really fabulous information at the internships workshop from Susan. All right. It's great to see everybody. Stay back if you've got a particular question, but otherwise feel free to go about your day. I appreciate your time. See you next time.